right now I'm iterating on this concepts feature. Have you seen this?
I know.
And so what concepts is the kind of world view of all your knowledge. And so, for example, this concept of Microsoft Cloud was created from ingesting their quarterly earnings report. And um, as additional data from Microsoft flows into Storytell, we'll learn more and more about a concept like Microsoft Cloud and how it relates to other concepts that are relevant to Microsoft, such as LinkedIn or Azure. And you could imagine this being a client, a product, a service, a key stakeholder, right? These are all concepts in your business. And as you might do something like automatically forward your emails into Storytel. And you could go and check out your boss's profile and see a summary of what matters most to him right now, what key action items are coming up, um, or maybe a worldview of a particular customer. And somebody else had a conversation that you weren't aware of, and the system determined that their renewal status is at risk based on what they heard in that transcript or in that email. And you can see that kind of complete business intelligence view of that customer here. And then perhaps be notified when something material happens and make it very easy to chat with that concept and the complete body of knowledge of that concept.
Oh, so potentially saving a client if the client may want to exit or anything else. Or if a client wants a nuance item, you know what they want per se.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the customers we're working with, it's a talent. I might get this wrong because they're not exactly a talent agency, but it's very similar where they're representing clients who are looking for certain roles, and they're trying to match up opportunities between studios who are also looking for actors that are like Harrison Ford, or that's the type that they have in mind. And there's apparently that entire business is really driven through emails, and it's fast and furious. And when you've seen long email threads, you've got to like stop and go all the way to the bottom and read the whole thing from top to bottom, and it's just can be painful. And so that's one of the primary use cases that we're playing with here is automatically forwarding those email threads and seeing a complete view of what roles are no longer available for this particular script. Maybe a change that the studio had, that they finally secured a director, which means that another decision is no longer blocked. And then also pairing the nuance of that a particular actor that they're representing is their motivation right now is in romance films, right? And that's so and then having so many representatives of the company, they're all involved in so many different conversations that nobody really has a complete view of the world, right?
It
And
makes
so
it
by
sounds like it makes it easier than having AI agents going across convoluting everything because you have an AI agent reading one string, you create another string, then it becomes a mesh of everyone talking to each other simultaneously. It becomes more crazier. Having a worldview reduces that mesh or that crap in a sense.
yeah, trying to find the signal through all the noise. And so this is I'll just click around. We can go up to Microsoft Corporation, and I've learned some stuff just by putting this together.
I'll be
Microsoft
at
stuff. So.
Microsoft next week for their global nonprofit conference.
Oh, cool.
All they're going to talk about is AI stuff.
Well, let's click on their concept of AI, from their earnings report here. And it's good to see that they're interested in responsible AI. And um, yeah, so just trying to pluck out from the stream of data flowing into Storytel, creating a concept, and then making sure that you can always tie that back to references. So you know kind of where did that worldview come from. Working on the timeline piece. I don't have anything to show there yet, but how has this concept changed over time? How has the customer's status or account grown over time? Hey, Jordio.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I was on a customer call. Great to meet you. Good to see you, Johnson.
I'm just lurking and learning about stuff.
Oh, it's great. It's great. I'm excited to lurk as well and just listen.
Because
Yeah.
Aaron was telling me about your concept side and then showing me the cloud and how it connects, interconnects. And he explained to me like if one of your clients has a mesh of a long email chain
Mhm,
and trying to figure out what is in that email because it may have gone away already. And then it reminds me of how AI agents, everyone's trying to sell an AI agent to you to do stuff or do a Zapier connection of one next thing or another thing. But then that gets convoluted if so many people are using the same engine, becomes a crazy mess. And then the signal through the noise, this will provide you that signal versus that noise. Because
mhm,
everyone's throwing, if I'm one agent, you're another agent, and Aaron's another agent, and we're using the same agent, all three of us, we're
mhm,
never going to get to that signal at all
mhm.
because everyone's using the same thing. We might miss something by the time, oh, I got it. I found the person. Nope, too late. It's already taken by Aaron.
Johnson, one thing about that, and Aaron, I don't know if you've talked about it yet, but the ability to then push concepts to people where they might not have known that they didn't know about it. So imagine a little bell here where anytime this concept changes or shows up in the raw data, you say, like notify me whenever that happens, things like that. And so being able to push signal to people is a next step here. And I just wonder if you have any perspective on that.
That's good. I think what Aaron says he's working on a timeline, that would also tie
Mm.
into your bell thing
Yes,
because then
exactly.
you know when things change or what that moment made that inflection point change. And then if that inflection changed that inflection point, maybe the previous concept may help because a lot of people are doing marketing stuff and they say one thing and then the news comes out, they're changing into something else, you know? Like
Yeah,
recently I was writing a grant
exactly.
for the CDFI and the president says, we're going to cut it down to the statutory basis. And then so everyone's saying $300 is off the table. And it says, what do we do next? What do we do next? So I just had everything that was ingested and put it into like a bot and have it read everything. So that way I can ask questions of it. Makes life easier.
Hmm. Aaron, I wonder if we play around with this idea, I could imagine like an alerts section, maybe even towards the top here, and I can create a new alert. And when I create a new alert, it pops open a box and it lets me just use natural language to say, anytime this concept changes, I want to alert the sales team, or anytime that this shows up in the data, I want to be emailed or whatever. And then all my alerts show up, in a sidebar or something. I don't know, Aaron, what you've been thinking about there.
Yeah, as much as possible versus having some 747 cockpit of dials and things that you have to adjust. Natural language, I think, is the way.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then it's our burden to translate that into the schema we need with the
Hmm.
min maxes or whatever the triggers are. And
Hmm. Yeah, that feels like it would be powerful.
Your dashboard looks very clean. It has like very like everything is like all orderly.
It's our engineering team, Aaron and Andy, are just phenomenal. We just get so many people telling us it's a joy to use Storytell. It feels really good. In fact, I was just on a call. The reason that I was late was a data analyst that was talking about how nice it was to be using this thing. It was really cool.
we've been working on improving the UI in other areas as well. So the view of how we represent the knowledge has gotten some work. Try to button it up, tighten it up.
One thing, Aaron, that I wanted to ask you about, and Johnson, I'd be curious to get your perspective, is how we really differentiate between a label and a concept. And I've thought about labels as being static and concepts as being dynamic. Is that the way that you're thinking about it, Aaron?
Yes. And I think um, labels being curated by people and the concepts being dynamically generated by the system. Not to say that you couldn't go in and create a concept, um, and specifically get it started with a certain document, or you can have some control over the concepts. But I'm thinking the labels are more and more curated by people, but then can also be assigned by our system as we recognize that you've uploaded a strategic document. We put strategy on it.
I'm just wondering if we can collapse the two and if that's better or worse if we were to do that. Because I think people understand the word label. It makes a lot of sense. Concept is a bit of a newer concept, as it were. But technically speaking, you could make a static or dynamic concept, right? That could be true. Like it could be the same thing. I think, Johnson, I was very curious to get your perspective on labels versus concepts and what you would
Oh,
want as a user.
I only learned about it today. So
yeah, it's okay. It's actually better that way because you're not drinking the Kool-Aid like us.
no, because like I don't I would say labels are very static. And then I remember from your past user talks, a lot of folks say we have too many labels as well.
Right.
Right. And then they don't want too many labels. But
Yep.
then they want a lot of labels to label everything, which is kind of a weird concept for them.
Yeah.
And then concept for me, from what Aaron said, is just a chunk of data that has been sparsed. And it's
Call it an object that has relationships. And so it is an object like this is a business segment called cloud, and it has relationships to other concepts in your data, which we are automatically sussing out for you. So you don't have to, based
then
on
why don't you call it relationships?
call it relationships instead of concepts.
The concept is very theoretically theory, like very theoretical, I guess, concepts.
Let me just try to draw something here. So let's imagine that, and let's try to use maybe, Aaron, I don't know what would be some like a good, like we could use, like the concept of fruit, and this is an apple, and this is, a banana or whatever, and this is, I don't know, a kiwi. These have relationships to each other. So there's the concept of an apple, there's the concept of a banana, there's concept of a kiwi, they're more or less related to each other. There's also the concept of fruit, that is another concept, which is almost like a container. And that has a relationship to, vegetables or other food. And so each of these is almost like objects that have relationships, and those relationships have scores to each other. And it's like the relationship is what binds one to another, either strongly or weakly. But the thing itself, what do we call the thing itself? The apple in this case. Do we call it an object? Do we call it a concept?
And in programming terminology, we would use the word entity, but I don't know that resonates.
Right.
Programmers, they would say objects. Yes, old programmers would say objects.
Yeah, but Johnson, what would like a normal human, like Joe at JP Morgan Chase, who you introduced us to, like what would he want this to be called?
For me, would be relationships, because for banking, everything's about relationships.
Mm.
And then you have your sub relationships.
I get that. The reason that scares me, but again, we're here to learn from you, is because I would define the relationship as a score between two objects, right? So this might be 98% here, and this might be, 72%.
Yeah, because like if you're doing your prompting, you'd be, I'm learning that right now, that the way you do prompting for like visual prompting, you add a score to it, what like 1.1, 1.2. That way, when you ask questions, what weighs more in a prompt to create a visual representation of what you want to look like more so.
I mean, what's so interesting here is it's so interesting that we don't really even have a language for this, because we've just always lived in an asset first view. Like, Johnson, I'm going to send you the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint really is 27 concepts, right? I can't send you just the concept, which is bullet 3 of slide 2. with Storytell, I could just send you the concept. Really, you only care about that one concept in that whole PowerPoint. The rest of it's noise.
Well, your concept's basically an idea, and so your concepts would be the same thing as an idea.
What do you think, Aaron?
But concepts is fine. People just gotta learn to use that. Use that.
Yeah.
So eventually they'll have to understand that their concept is the idea.
The first word we were trying was profile, that you're looking at a profile of something.
What do you think of that, Johnson?
Profile is more perspective.
Sounds like we keep playing with concepts.
Yeah,
It's
I
your
think
frame. It's how you're framing it, I would guess, your framework.
Yeah.
But your whole thing is a framework.
Yeah, it's bringing structure to a lot of data soup, right? A lot of unstructured data that otherwise doesn't have a common language. We're creating a common language for you to interact with it. Aaron, on the call that I was just on, they were really excited about being able to start to query around concepts. They loaded in a bunch of CSV data that had like, it was a bunch of call center data, and it's people that were like dropping calls early. And so they had like, what are the reasons that they're dropping calls early? And I told them each reason that someone drops early could be a concept, and then you could query that concept across all the data. So people who drop a call early because the line dies or whatever,
Mhm.
oh, now that's a concept. Now I can see like, tell me everything about the line dying across like all these calls. And they were like, oh my God, that's so cool. So
Yeah.
Johnson, that's an example.
Well, I think your concept by itself is fine then, because it provides structure and what Aaron showed me. And then it has it gives you the, like you're saying, the general principles for everything. And then the PowerPoint would be like the PowerPoint would be the entire framework of what you're trying to do, your theories and everything else. And your concept is that little thing in there that you want to point to.
Yeah.
It would be like the concept for AI, which Aaron showed me, is what the cloud is working on, for example,
Mm-hmm.
or what Microsoft's working on, versus
Okay.
a generality of things.
Aaron, I also just jumped in here, so I don't know what else you had wanted to show Johnson.
This is the main thing that I'm trying to get feedback on. There are a couple other screens that are also new to you or changes. I've dressed up the workspaces view a little bit. I think this is a little bit cleaner than the screen that I had when I woke up this morning.
Cool.
We've got I've cleaned up all of the tables here. I think it's just a little easier to read now, trying to get consistency with the iconography, workspace project. This is a little bit cleaner. Cleaned up the actions menus. Improved the filters, improved the way that the search is working.
Well, and I told Giorgio, I said, Aaron is doing a great job, because since he's joined your organization, you've done a lot of changes.
I
And
agree.
I said thank you, and it gets easier. The more momentum we build, the flywheel
Yeah.
spins faster.
One thing, just to go back to concepts for a minute, Aaron, one thing that would be very valuable just as I tell this story to different audiences. So, Johnson, we have a round open right now. So, I'm talking to investors, which we should talk about. One thing, Aaron, that would be helpful if you can go into a specific concept would just be to have that alert. Like, I don't know how you want to do it, but if it's, create an alert with a little bell icon or whatever, even if it doesn't do anything yet, just to be able to talk to how we could create alerts around concepts, that would be great from a storytelling perspective.
Yeah, I can have something for that tomorrow. The other thing, and I don't have something to share on this yet, but is this. I'm calling it the start page, or the jobs to be done that we talked about. I'm working to visualize that and how that would work.
That's awesome.
And I think that and then enhancing the chat. That's kind of the last design explorations.